Hey everyone, Mikki here. You're listening to Mini Mikkipedia on a Monday, and today I want to chat about erectile dysfunction. And one of the reasons why I thought it would be an idea to discuss this topic is it's not a topic often discussed. We are getting very good at talking about women's health, women's sexual health, talking about factors that impact on libido, sexual function, things like that. We seem to be super comfortable or getting comfortable about that, but men's health, at least in my area, often isn't discussed. And I can't recall, I think it was something I was reading last week where erectile dysfunction sort of came up, and I thought, you know what, maybe it would be a good idea to just have a broad overview of some of the factors that impact on this, just in case it's something that you're experiencing or your partner's experiencing. And every little bit of information helps, right? And it's not uncommon, in fact. Global prevalence rates, well, it differs amongst different age groups, but they have been reported to be anywhere from 3% to 76.5%, with different screening tools potentially being responsible for the wide variance reported. That said, 10% of men between 40 and 70 years report severe erectile dysfunction, and 25% would categorize it as being moderate. And the reason why this falls into a nutrition bucket is because it is really common for men who have erectile dysfunction to also experience other comorbidities, such as type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, and cardiovascular disease. In of itself, erectile dysfunction can clearly impact on quality of life, mood state, and relationships. I imagine that most men at some point in their lives would have a problem with, quote unquote, getting it up, right? It's not the one point in time where it's potentially something that needs to be addressed. Erectile dysfunction is the persistent inability to achieve or maintain an erection sufficient for satisfactory sexual performance. That is like the definition. And also, the issue occurs consistently over time, usually 3 months or longer, and it's the rigidity of the erection or the duration of it, which are two factors that impact on the ability to ejaculate. So these are some diagnostic markers. Other markers includes if this impacts or interferes with sexual relationships, and if you are over the threshold of a score on an assessment tool such as the International Index of Erectile Function 5, IIEF 5, which is often used as part of the overall diagnosis. So there are certain criteria that place someone in a bucket of having erectile dysfunction. So both psychological and physiological causes can underlie ED, which is what I'm going to call it from here on in. And in many cases, it is the combination of the two. In addition to lifestyle contributors, some of which I mentioned before as comorbidities. Stress, especially chronic stress, can increase cortisol, which impairs on testosterone production and potentially blood flow. Further, anxiety about ED can exacerbate the problem, and depression, which is it sort of co-occurs with severe anxiety or flows on from persistent anxiety, can also reduce libido. Relationship issues can also play a role, and the ED itself can perpetuate these. So you can see that it would be possible to get in this sort of vicious cycle. Vascular conditions such as atherosclerosis, which is the narrowing of our blood vessels, reduces blood flow to the penis and impacts negatively. Type 2 diabetes is a leading cause of erectile dysfunction, and that is super common, diagnosed and estimated undiagnosed. And this can damage blood vessels and nerves. Neurological conditions such as a stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease can disrupt the nerve signals to the penis, and drugs such as antidepressants and painkillers like oxycodone and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, ibuprofen, those things, and fentanyl can reduce testosterone and impair erectile function. Now, hypertension is often known as a silent condition because people almost always are unaware that they've got hypertension until it's actually diagnosed, albeit they will be showing some symptoms, but they will not sort of put two and two together. It's a common condition with men, and men with hypertension are twice as likely to experience erectile dysfunction compared to those with normal blood pressure. Erections require adequate blood flow, and the vessels supplying the penis are highly sensitive to changes in blood pressure, and they're tiny. Hypertension can damage blood vessel walls, leading to hardening and narrowing of the arteries, reducing the ability to deliver blood effectively. This therefore compromises the ability to achieve or maintain an erection. Further, the inner lining of blood vessels, known as endothelium, is where nitric oxide is produced, and nitric oxide allows for the relaxation of smooth muscles in the vessels of the penis and allows blood to fill the erectile tissue. Hypertension over time can lead to oxidative stress and inflammation, impacting on nitric oxide production. Therefore, the blood vessels of the penis are unable to relax properly, and this inhibits the ability for having an erection. It's worth noting that medications for hypertension, such as beta blockers and diuretics, also reduce blood flow, lower libido and testosterone, and can reduce cellular energy, therefore exacerbating the issue. So, these are just a few of the interactions between lifestyle and ED, erectile dysfunction. And it's worth noting that type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and poor metabolic health are all diseases of lifestyle. Therefore, ED could be a direct reflection of what you were doing day to day, and importantly, could well be resolved through looking at lifestyle factors. Physical inactivity and a highly refined diet both contribute to increased oxidative stress and inflammation that stiffens and hardens arteries, reducing blood flow. Chronic alcohol use can depress the nervous system and impact negatively on testosterone production. Smoking reduces blood flow and damages blood vessels, reducing nitric oxide production also. So you can see then, ED is often a multifactorial condition rooted in vascular, hormonal, neurological, and psychological factors, all of which are closely tied to mitochondrial health. Mitochondria is the energy-producing structures within our cells, and they are vital for sexual function as they provide the energy required for vascular and smooth muscle processes involved in erections. During sexual arousal, nitric oxide is released by endothelial cells, triggering the relaxation of smooth muscle and increasing blood flow to the penile tissue, as I mentioned earlier. This process demands significant energy, and when mitochondrial function is compromised by aging, oxidative stress, or poor lifestyle choices, the energy deficit disrupts nitric oxide production and impairs vascular function. Compounding these issues, conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, which are common contributors to ED, erectile dysfunction, these worsen mitochondrial dysfunction through chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. Addressing mitochondrial health offers a powerful strategy for tackling ED at its root. Mitochondria are also central to managing oxidative stress, which, if uncontrolled, damages those endothelial cells and further disrupts NO signaling. This creates a cycle where poor mitochondrial health accelerates vascular damage, leading to a progressive decline in erectile function. So, therefore, by improving mitochondrial function, individuals can enhance blood flow, restore cellular energy, and protect vascular integrity. So, outside of lifestyle strategies, though, such as regular exercise, a nutrient-rich diet, moderate to low alcohol intake, a minimization and appropriate use of medications that impact on ED risk, there are other things you might want to consider to ensure that sexual health isn't impeded by low mitochondrial energy. And it goes without saying, really, that if you focus or target on improving any of these areas, any of these chronic lifestyle conditions that impact on ED, that you will therefore improve that erectile dysfunctional state. So I don't doubt that anyone that gets their health in order is going to have an improvement in symptoms. But It's worth talking about a couple of these other strategies. And of course, stress management is a frontline solution. It's often the thing that people want to supplement their way out of, but ultimately finding strategies that are implemented which change the nervous system response is always going to outlast any transient change in your nervous system that a supplement will provide when it comes to stress. It's the frequency of this which makes a difference long term. Going on a 7-day silent retreat is great, as is taking a daily yoga class when you're on a 2-week break. However, these aren't strategies that can be carried forward into your real life. So finding solutions that you can embed in your everyday life is always going to be much more effective than doing the big, bold 10-day silent retreat that you do once and that's it. Things like meditation, journaling, grounding, yoga daily for 10 minutes, maybe find a YouTube app or a YouTube channel that has something like this, spending time in nature, even viewing nature, and that is either green space or blue space, has a noticeable and favorable impact on your nervous system. And these are all strategies which don't require a lot of your time. They just require the habitualization into your daily lifestyle. And the thing with habits is that it's getting that habit established is the important part. And then you can begin to improve on that. So even if your yoga practice or your meditation practice is 2 minutes, getting into the habit of finding that 2 minutes, finding the space with which you're going to do your meditation or do your yoga, but that is almost more important than the fact that you're doing it. But at least from then, when you've established that habit, you can then build in potentially more time than what you've currently sort of allowed yourself, because you've just got to nail that habit first and foremost. And viewing nature, what I mean by that is maybe having screensavers that have like a beach view or a mountain view, or putting up pictures of the natural environment in your office if you're unable to connect to it daily, if you don't even like live by a park or have some green space at home. Like these are all things which can help with that. And journaling might sound a bit naff, but honestly, like it is one of the best things you can do to sort of offload whatever is in your brain onto a piece of paper. You never have to read it, ever. No one else ever has to read it either. But it's something about offloading it somewhere else so it's not taking up that space in your brain, and you have a noticeable change in your nervous system energy. And of course, breathing is one of the best things you can do for the nervous system. So box type breathing right through your diaphragm. So you're expanding your stomach when you take a breath in, and you're relaxing it as you breathe out. And the in breath has a longer duration than the out breath. These are all strategies that help support your parasympathetic nervous system response. And then from a supplement perspective, I thought it was also worth just going over what some of the research suggests might be helpful on the supplement front, albeit a supplement is not going to be your solution if this is something that you struggle with. It is going to complement your solution, which is, of course, lifestyle related. So Panax ginseng, or Korean ginseng, is widely used in traditional medicine for improving sexual performance. And most studies, according to a recent review, reported improved erectile function measured via the IIEF-5 scale I mentioned earlier, and sexual satisfaction, likely due to enhanced nitric oxide production and vasodilation. So it's helping improve blood flow to the penis. The ginseng contains ginsenosides, which may also increase testosterone and improve sexual behavior, at least in preclinical or animal trials. Human studies have been a little bit inconsistent here. And doses of between 0.5 and 3 grams are considered safe, but of course, more research is needed to clarify the efficacy of this. And then you've also got, I'm going to say, pycnogenol and Prelox. And this is derived from French maritime pine bark, which is rich in procyanidins with antioxidant properties and improves nitric oxide synthesis and vasodilation. So Prelox, combining pine bark with L-arginine and other components, consistently improve erectile dysfunction across studies. Pine bark appears effective alone, but it does show greater efficacy when it is combined with the L-arginine, particularly in individuals who have low nitric oxide levels. And that is interesting actually about L-arginine, because many studies that look at L-arginine actually think that L-citrulline, which is a precursor, might actually be better from a vasodilation perspective and a nitric oxide perspective. So just thought I'd throw that in there. You've got Tribulus terrestris. I don't know that I've said that properly, but I've seen this supplement around a lot. I think it's a banned substance. If I'm thinking if you're an athlete, I probably wouldn't take it. But it's a traditional medicinal herb that does enhance nitric oxide levels and vasodilation, at least in preclinical trials. Studies in humans report positive effects on erectile function, although no significant changes in testosterone levels were observed. Although that is actually what it's often used to try and improve, which is probably why it's banned. And more studies are required to confirm its efficacy and clarify the mechanisms. You've got maca. So this is traditionally used in the Andes for improving sexual function, and it's an often recommended supplement for women. But some studies have reported improved sexual desire and erectile function, but the evidence is a little inconsistent. Certainly, there is no downside. Preclinical trials suggest potential benefits in this area as well, but clinical evidence is actually limited. And then, as I mentioned, you've got L-arginine, which is a precursor to nitric oxide production, and it supports vasodilation and improved blood flow. L-arginine improves erectile function alone and in combination with the pine bark, as I mentioned, or other compounds like citrulline. Effective potentially in individuals with low nitric oxide levels, but it's also well tolerated and suitable for long-term use. And for what it's worth, there have been some trials looking at acupuncture, which has showed limited but promising evidence for improving erectile dysfunction. So, and I think with anything supplement-wise, this is what I often talk to clients about, is that everyone's quite individual as to what actually helps them. So outside of all of the lifestyle and the diet related stuff, which I haven't really gone into, but you guys know my diet strategies. I talk about them all of the time. They would be no different to what they are here. But certainly the lifestyle, the exercise, reducing oxidative stress, focusing on stress management, all of those things are super important. The supplements that you layer into that, you could just try a few of these just to see whether they help in addition. Particularly anything that is going to help increase nitric oxide production appears to be studied and have some efficacy for improving erectile dysfunction. So there you have it. It's a little bit on men's health, which is not my usual, but I was happy to go in and just have a look at some of this information. And ultimately, I do love how it does come back to mitochondrial energy overall, because anything that helps improve nitric oxide is going to, or mitochondrial energy is going to help improve that nitric oxide production. So I think everything in our health is related to mitochondria. So questions, comments, queries, anything, hit me up. By the way, I have my webinar, Unlocking Metabolic Mastery, which of course delves into the diet side of things. I have that coming up on January the 27th, and I'm running it twice, once at 1 p.m. and the second time at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 27th of January, New Zealand time. I would love it if you joined me. There will be a link to that in the show notes, but you can also connect with me on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter at Mikki Williden, Facebook at Mikki Williden Nutrition, or head to my website, mikkiwilliden.com. All right, team, have the best week. See you later.